Hi, I'm Rachel, and I was born December 25th, 1998. And so here are just some events that I found interesting about that same month and year. So, regarding politics and just other notable events, one of the first things I took note of was on December 4th, the Space Shuttle Endeavour launched the first American component to the International Space Station. So that's pretty cool. Next thing I took note of was in December 6th, Hugo Chavez was elected the president of Venezuela. Not following that, but another event that occurred was December 9th, and this is a pretty dark one, I would say, was December 9th, the Tadiena massacre in Algeria happened, and so this was a massacre of 81 villagers in the mountain villages Buhamed and Ayashish, and they were killed by armed groups in the mountains. And so these victims were just mutilated and burned, so their bodies were like I said, mutilated. But yeah, that was a pretty dark one. Another thing that happened was December 16th to December 19th, so this kind of spanned throughout 4 days. 3 days, was the Operation Desert Fox, and so that was basically the United States and the United Kingdom ordering airstrikes on Iraq, and like I said, it spanned through 4 days. So moving on to entertainment, here are just some films that were released. So December 18th, Shakespeare in Love was released, and that is essentially about William Shakespeare, but not about his plays, more about his personal life. And I'm pretty sure it's fiction though, but I'm not completely sure. And it's like his love life, and it shows the story of what inspired him to write some of his plays. And that just stars Gwyneth Paltrow and Joseph Fiennes as William Shakespeare. The next film, or another film that came out December 1998, was Jack Frost in December 11th. And we all may know this as like a family film, and I think it's about a snowman coming to life through the consciousness or the spirit of a child's like lost father or something. I'm not completely sure. I haven't seen it in a really long time. I just read like a synopsis, but yeah, you may know it. And I honestly, it kind of gave me flashbacks because I remember that snowman used to creep me out, so that's fun. Another film that came out December 1998 was December 4th was the film Psycho, and you may have seen it, and it's just a thriller movie, and it's about the Bates Motel and like Norman Bates and how there were like murders and stuff. And I haven't seen that film, but I've watched like the show Bates Motel, and I'm not sure how close it is to the original, but I found that show interesting, so I'm sure the movie's not bad at all. And the next film that came out was December 11th with Star Trek Insurrection. So if you're a Star Trek fan, you may be familiar with this film, and it was the ninth film of the Star Trek series, and it just stars Patrick Stewart and LeVar Barton, and so yeah. Moving on to births and deaths, I have like just a bunch of deaths, mainly in like one birth. But so the first death that I took note of was Archie Moore, and he was an American light heavyweight boxing champion, and he died at the age of 84. I'm not really a boxing person, but you might be familiar with the name. Another death that occurred was in December 7th, Claudia Benton was murdered, and she wasn't really famous, I would say. She's more famous for the way how she was killed, or like the trial. And so she was murdered in her home, and she was murdered by a serial killer, but when it first happened, her husband was accused of killing her, and so I guess it was this big thing back in the day, and the serial killer's name was Angel Maturino Resendez, and so he actually had like a long list of victims I read, and so that was pretty interesting to read about. So yeah, and then another death that occurred was in December 24th. Raymond Schreiber died at the age of 88, and he was known as an American physicist, and he developed the first atomic bomb that was used in World War II. And he also like took part in making another bomb in the bombing of Nagasaki. I think it was like the Fat Man's bomb or something. I'm not really sure what it was called, but I read it. But yeah. And so that was an interesting one too. And there's one birth that I took note of, and I only took note of it because we're like the same age, and I thought it was interesting. And I also realized that like births might not be that big of a deal because we're all pretty young and like no one really knows us. But his name was Owen Teague, and I recognized him for his role in the 2017 version of the film It, and you may have seen it. I found it entertaining. He plays one of the bullies that ended up going missing because he was murdered by Pennywise. I don't know if that's a spoiler, but yeah, so that's what I recognized him for. Maybe we'll see more of him throughout the years, but yeah. And so, although this probably fits into like the politics part of my speech, I felt it was important to save the best for last. So, you all may have heard the what's it called, the phrase or the famous words, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman," and they were the wise words of the 42nd president, I believe, Bill Clinton. And so on December 19th, only 6 days before I was born, he was impeached for his sexual relations with Monica Lewinsky, the Lewinsky scandal. And so he was impeached by the United States House of Representatives. So that's a little fun fact, December 19th. But yeah, those are all the facts I have for you. It was pretty entertaining. Looking at all of this. It was kind of stressful also trying to find enough to fit, but yeah. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed finding facts for yours. Goodbye.